Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Talking Timepieces, where we talk about watch collecting and horology. I just realized I didn't turn on this little backfill light here. All right, there we go. Where we talk about watch collecting and horology. And today, I wanted to talk about a topic that's come up a lot in various ways, in various forums, in various conversations. I don't think it's going to work, and I left all of my good glass cleaning cloths at the other end of the table, so I guess you're going to have to put up with the smudged glasses, as will I. Hey, Jean, how you doing? And the Vince, nice to see you, my friend. My friends. um Also, one of the reasons it came up in conversation is because a friend of mine recently got this Rolex, and he is, because of how he got it, he's not that sure about its vintage, and he asked me to take a look at it and determine if it is real or not. Uh, looking at it, it's got a hologram, although the hologram is a little muddy, which is the first thing, but it could just be that it's worn. The other is that the bracelet's on backwards. It's opening that way when it should be opening this way. So the bracelet's on backwards, but that could just be because the bracelet came off. So I looked at other things about it, and it's actually, like I was saying, it's a very, very good looking piece, right? Um, so I'm gonna have to open it up. So I decided, let's have an episode where we take this journey together and see if this is a real Rolex or not. It may be real, it may be not, but we'll go together and we'll see who guesses first. Obviously, once we open it, that'll probably narrow it down really quickly. But a lot of us don't have the luxury of being able to open up a watch. So let's see if we can find anything about it that either A, confirms it as a Rolex, or B, confirms it as not a Rolex. And like I said, we'll do a nice little episode on that. And then we'll follow up with the live stream and we can talk about it. But to the topic, oh, wow, a lot of comments. Very nice already. Elusive Man, hey, I'm doing well, my friend. Warren, JDF Omega, Nanad, Daniel, Oscar. Always nice to see all my friends on this show, because I mean, I only get a few hundred views on these live streams anyway, but this is just my hobby channel. I started and I did a lot of video to build up an archive and all, but my real goal was just to have a nice talk show. And so I did that kind of like to make my bones and establish my bona fides as somebody who can. I mean, I'm not an expert, and I never say I am, and I'm not an arbiter. I'm just a collector, but at least I'm a collector that people know I care and I know what I'm talking about to a degree, and all of that other. So we can have these kinds of conversations and have fun talking about watches. So beyond hello to everyone. Oh yeah, Gian. Yes, I saw that fake Rolex up your post just earlier. Yeah, so like I said, we're gonna go on a journey and we'll explore this piece because it does look very, very good. Um, and it does have a mechanical movement inside, right? So let's walk through it step by step. And the post that I had was just the back of a random, well, I shouldn't say random, but it was just the back of a Rolex. You didn't see the front in the post. You don't know if it was this watch or not. Oh, Arcana, let's open. I will. In fact, I actually have the toolkit to open. I mean, it's not easy because this isn't a press, but this is a legitimate tool that will open the Rolex back. Um, I won't say easily, but you can open the back of a Rolex with it. If you use it to open the back, you have to tighten it down as hard as you completely can, and, I wouldn't take it into the shower until you went to a shop and had them tighten it for you, because, I would trust okay, I would trust a shower to that tightness, but I wouldn't trust anything beyond that point, as long as the gasket's nice and clean and maybe you lubricate it a little before you reclose. But it never hurts to have the proper tools to do the proper job, but for the kind of things that I do, this is an adequate tool, and it does fit the Rolexes. It won't scratch them, and it'll do the proper job. So, Elusive Man, didn't I say it was fake already? I alluded to it. I didn't say this specific one, but yeah, pretty much. But I am gonna do an episode, and we're gonna walk through it, and, I mean, you figure if I'm gonna do an episode, if it's fake or not, it's probably fake. But yeah, this is a very nice looking piece. And like I said, there are some very, very subtle tells, and we're gonna walk through all of them when we do. I'll do, like I said, I'll do an episode, and then we can talk about after the fact. But the reason that this applies to our topic tonight is that are premium watches expensive? The first argument I get from people about fake watches is, well, the real ones are so expensive. They're too expensive. They're overpriced. Right? Now, let's go straight from the mainstream point of view. Yeah, you can hear that too. Let's go straight from the mainstream point of view in that they're overpriced, right? First off, we have to determine what is the price they're talking about, right? Are they talking about the price of a Rolex? A steel bezel Rolex retails for around $8,000. Now, I would say that's slightly overpriced, but I would say, I mean, if you think about Rolex's half brother, or actually whole brother, just uh, not favorite brother, but I guess Tudor's now favorite brother as well. But Tudor was specifically created by Hans Wilsdorf to provide an economical alternative to Rolex, and Tudors are priced roughly what I would say a Rolex is worth, and which means that Rolexes are probably overpriced by 20 to 30%. Which, if you account for the marketing, yeah. But when people say, "Oh, they're too expensive," they're often talking about the gray market value. "Oh man, that thing is 20 some odd thousand dollars." Yeah, if you buy it from a gray marketer. Well, I can't buy it retail because it's never available. Um, that's true, and it took me years to get some of the pieces I have in my collection, and some of them I did buy gray market. So you have to bite that bullet and say, "Okay, I'm willing to pay the premium for getting it now, or wait and see what opportunities present themselves in the marketplace." But if you talk about that aspect in the case of gray market, Rolex isn't getting any of that money, right? So Rolex isn't overpricing their watches. That $15,000 date just is not Rolex's price. Frankly, that's why Rolex started up. I think one of the reasons, obviously, a corporation doesn't do anything, even a charitable organization doesn't do any, like Rolex, doesn't do anything for only one reason. Um, they started that, but one of the reasons that they started the pre-owned situation and probably bought Bucherer for it was so that they could get a piece of that sweet, sweet gray market money, because they're watching their watches sell for 2 times their retail, and they don't get that money. And now through their certified pre-owned, they at least have an opportunity, and then they're at least offering legitimate pre-owned, well-serviced pieces at market value instead of retail. But at least you can buy them. You can walk in the store and walk out with one of those. Oh, um, let's scroll. I love it. Well, like I said, we have a bunch of comments. Gian, the thing nowadays is CNC machines are available everywhere, so counterfeits would make excellent watches. Back in the 1800s, only very few countries like Switzerland and Germany could make them. Well, that this watch is actually a perfect example of that. The bracelet and case are actually very, very good, and there is a mechanical movement inside. It's just when I popped it open and I saw that it had a plastic spacer, that was the first giveaway. Normally, if it's a really good fake, you have to look closer and see if it's a free sprung balance or not. Only the very, very, very best, like the legendary fakes that people say, the super fakes, you can't tell and all that other crap. I've seen a lot of fakes, and I have never seen a fake that good. I've seen fakes that are good enough on the outside that you have serious trouble determining, and in this case, you would like I said, the only way that I was certain was opening up to look. And of course, they spent so much to make it a good exterior. They just put, but they did at least put, I mean, it's a mechanical movement in there. So it has a sweep so that they could easily pass it off as a real one. But the argument that these are too expensive, this, like I said, this retails for about 8, I mean, and that's a lot of money. I will grant you that that is a lot of money, but that's not a $50,000 Louis Vuitton bag or, you could buy shoes that cost $10,000. And watches at the absolute minimum are those shoes aren't gonna you unless you wear them once a year, you're never gonna wind up having your great great grandchild inherit it. Well, not this one. This piece, unless it gets sold, will stay in the family as long as someone is willing to maintain it. Here we go. That the real deal. The heft, I think, is a difference, but the trouble is the sub is a heavier piece to begin with, so you can't do a 50-50 on the weight. But I will do a face-to-face when I do the episode, so we can do at least a comparison on fit and finish, because the fit and finish on the face is something that is expressed on both the date just and the sub. And I do have a date just. It's just that my date just is the oyster quartz, which some of you have seen, but some people have always commented, if I'm going to show the watch, at least show it long enough that people who haven't seen it can take a look. So those of you who have seen it, my apologies for keep showing it. But I know there are people who on the show who have not seen the oyster quartz, and it is quite a compelling piece. And that's why I had the display back put on it, because it's not just your standard quartz watch. And this has got a value of about 6 to 7,000, right? So when you think about, well, they're overpriced, what the first question is, what kind of watches are you talking about? And they'll probably say Rolex, and that's why I went and I started with Rolex. But some people would say that about Cartier or any of the other luxury watch manufacturers. The reason I said premium watch in the headline is because, as Adrian Barker pointed out, Bark and Jack, uh, there are watches that some people call luxury that aren't really luxury, but they are definitely premium, right? I mean, Rolex has, of course, achieved the level of luxury, but it was originally just a tool watch company. So this is a premium watch. Some people would call a Bulova lunar pilot with a meteorite dial a luxury piece, but it's primarily a tool watch. And luxury also implies the more casual demeanor. So this is a luxury piece. And as I already pointed out, you can get one for way less than $10,000. Um, and if you go beyond Rolex, you can get a ton of really, really nice watches for way, way less than the people, when you ask them about prices, the numbers that they would throw out about the price of a Rolex or a price of Swiss watches are overpriced. Let's trap them in specifics, because the biggest problem with a lot of people who argue with you on certain things, no matter what it is they will generalize. all X is X. And you say, well, really, all X? Well, what about in the case of watches, Oris? Oris. Well, I don't know Oris. I've never heard of Oris. Well, the fact that you never heard of Oris shows that you may lack the depth of understanding in the marketplace to properly assess it with a casual statement like all Swiss watches are overpriced or all luxury watches are overpriced. Because I don't think Mitos or Oris or Certina or Eterna, all great Swiss watch manufacturers, none are overpriced. They okay, even if you say they're overpriced in the sense that anything of value today is overpriced, unless it's you're paying for the marketing, you're paying for advertising on your cereal. All right, so let's not go overboard. But you could buy a Mito Ocean Star Chrono diver, almost as good as a functional watch, fit and finish almost as good, but as good as a functional watch as the Omega Seamaster Chrono. I did an episode on one. I had one for a while, and it was a Mito, and you could pick that up for like in the $3,000 to $4,000 range off the top of my head. I can't remember exactly, but I know it was way under 5,000. And a brand new Seamaster today is only like 7,000, 7,000 only. But then, so the first question is what's overpriced? There are watches that cost $1,000,000, Richard Mille and Richard Mille, I will agree 100% as the day is long, they're comically overpriced. There are other companies like that as well. But then once you get into the luxury space, 90% of that is all image anyway, generated by marketing and sponsorships and the like. I was watching Formula One today, and Richard Mille is on the Formula One vehicle. And you know how much Formula One advertising costs. So that a significant percentage after you go through the executives' salaries and the engineers and the watchmakers' salaries, granting I will give them that they have good tech in their watches. I think they're a little elitist, stuck up, and very, very overpriced because they could what they're selling for 1,000,000, they could theoretically sell for 100,000, and that's still a comical amount of money. And they would be able to sell watches as well. I mean, there are lots of watches in the $100,000 price point. You know, a lot more than you think. I mean, and more than I even think. And I thought I knew some because someone will come up and say, "Hey, what about these?" And I'll go, "I didn't know that they did that." You know, but when it comes to are premium and luxury watches overpriced? Everything is relative. As Einstein said, reality is based upon the point of view of the observer. Because we have two issues here, right? Number one is what value do you put into watches? Because there are people who recognize the value in watches and are willing to spend that money. And I'm not a rich person, but I choose to collect nice watches because I recognize the art and the craft and how they transcend the mundane aspects of our, you know, existence. If these are ever found by some alien civilization, they'll go, "Oh, okay, these people weren't that bad. They were able to create art like this." Like the way we thought about the Antikythera mechanism and how it changed how we viewed ancient technology, you know? To be able to create something this precise and form and aesthetics are linked. A nicely made machine is good looking to us. It pushes the right buttons in our psyche to recognize that that well-made machine is also elegantly done. If elegantly done, we will recognize it. And that brings us to the second question. But before I go to the second question, let's look at the comments. So right, so we talked about Gian and the CNC machines and all because yeah, you're right. The finishing you can do a lot with machines. Um, Gian, still a fake is a fake no matter how you spin it. Exactly. I don't like fakes. If it weren't for if the fact that my friend said he doesn't want to sell it to me, I would have bought it from him and smashed it on the video as well because I love smashing fakes on the show. If you haven't seen it, you can look at a couple. Matter of fact, my number one video is where I compare the two Breitlings. I compare this Breitling to a fake, and I smashed the crap out of the fake Breitling on camera. So you can check that one out. Number one video on my channel. Nanad, I forgot if I said hi, but hi. And the Vince Arcana, Carter, Elusive Man, JDF Omega. Um, but yeah, fakes are fakes. A good fake is just a better lie. Nanad, it almost looks too nice, but people do take care of Rolexes. This is also true. Vince just got an 8500 Aquaterra. Aquaterra is a that is an that is a underappreciated watch family, the Aquaterra family. People do pay attention to the fancy ones like the World Timer, but the Aquaterra I mean, frankly, the Aquaterra the Aquaterra is an example of the old line. Omega is the better watch. Rolex is the better brand. The Aquaterra is a better watch than the Datejust, in my humble opinion. And I haven't owned an Aquaterra. I've owned a Seamaster, several Seamasters, and other Omegas, but never owned an Aquaterra. But Omega watches are awesome, and although some of the newest Rolex, like the movement that's in the Land Dweller, that's got some respectable horology in it, you know. But the Aquaterra is a beautiful, beautiful piece. It really is. I envy you for the purchase. It's a nice watch. Congrats. Um, Arcana is hard to judge. It is. So Carter, how you doing, my friend? I think I said hi, but it never hurts to say hi twice if you miss somebody. Uh, Elusive man, very good choice of words. My pleasure. Journalism at its finest. Well, I am a writer. We're pushing the September issue of the Power Electronics magazine out of the door right now. So I actually have to get up tomorrow and be functional. Although I am drinking Bitburger, and here in Germany it's local. My favorite pills. The nice thing about Germany is I have a favorite pills. I have a favorite Helles. Not a big Weizen fan, so I mean, if whatever Weizen they're offering, if that's all they have to drink, I'll drink it. But not a big Weizen fan. But I do like my stouts and my Bocks and Bock beer and Helles and pills and the like. There's a lot there to appreciate in beers and whiskeys. But then, as I've said in other episodes, and maybe that's something we could bring up in another live stream, is how the nice thing about watch collecting is it lends itself well to other hobbies that also encourage, if not collecting physically, then collecting experiences. Like cigar smokers, they're collecting the experience. Beer drinkers, whiskey drinkers, they're collecting the experience because you can't drink what you don't open. Any whiskey collection of any caliber is going to rotate because you're going to wind up drinking the whiskey that's in the collection. You might have some bottles that you only drink once a year, but eventually that'll go too, right? The key with any collection in my mind, even like my watch collection, I really don't believe I'm going to buy anything new anytime soon. But I thought, you know what? Now's the time to build up a war chest because that way, if I'm not looking for anything before I turn around, I'll have enough to actually buy something that maybe I'm interested in. But I'm not looking for anything right now, so now's a good time to save and just keep my eyes open. Um, because I almost bought a Panerai about a week or two ago, but by the time I decided I might be interested in it, it had sold. At a used shop of a friend of mine here in Wiesbaden. But the whole aspect of overpriced watches, like I said, brings us to the second question, and that is, what is expensive? Because to a lot of people, if you have the means, then expensive is a relative term, right? You know, um, if it's a $3,000 watch and you can save $500 a month, that watch is within your grasp. I forget, you have to do the math, but I mean, it's not like forever. 5 times 6 is 30, right? So, uh, in a few years, you could buy one even at that savings rate, and by then you could think about what you wanna buy, and if you say, "Well, that's a long time," think about how long you'd have to sit on a waiting list for a Rolex. And in the meantime, you can buy a really cool Seiko or something, more. For example, I really, really, really like Tissot. And I've got some, quote unquote expensive pieces, but I like to wear this piece. It's a fun looking, good looking. I With the bracelet, it looks more dressy and disco-y and like younger, I guess you could even say. I like the contrast of the strap to the face. And this has got a value 7753 in it. And you can pick this up used, I think, for around 15, and new it's only around 18, maybe even less if you can Presbyterian them down at the retail. And this is a really good watch. So when people say Swiss watches are too expensive, you'll say, what? Are you telling me this? Let's be honest. Some people go, "Well, 2,000 is a lot of money." It is, but this is a Swiss-made watch with a movement, with a legacy. People like to turn their nose up at Etta and Valjoux and the like, but there's a reason everybody uses the Valjoux 7750. Every single one of these watches is a 7750 variant. Oh, really? I thought I had. Oh, this one is also a 7750 base. These are all 7750 base. The Longines, the Cartier, and the Tissot. They're all 7750 base. There's a reason so many companies use it. It's because it's a great movement. So when people say expensive, like I said, the first one is, what do you mean by expensive in the case of the brand and the product? They really mean the hyper brands, and the hyper brands are in a different. Yes, you're right, they're expensive. Rolex at retail is not that overpriced. Is Just can't get it, and you have to go to the gray market. But then the other side of the equation is, what can you afford, right? I mean, I deliberately live under my means, so not just to buy watches. It works out to buy watches, but I live below my means, so 'cause and as a 'cause I'm a freelance contractual journalist and editor and all, doing contract work. Sometimes the goose is high, sometimes the goose is low. So I deliberately live below my means so I can manage on regardless the income. But I've been doing reasonably well, so I have excess income and I can buy watches with it. I don't spend my money on much anything else, frankly. My joke is I spend my money on watches and the rest I waste. Um, but we all have different circumstances. But you can get a good Swiss watch for under $1,000 new. So it really does depend on what is your relationship to value, what is your relationship to what you're talking about. Because, like I said, a lot of these people who are talking about, Swiss watches are too expensive, luxury watches are too expensive, they're talking about a very, very small specific subset of brands, because a majority of Swiss brands are not overpriced because they're not Rolex, Vacheron, Patek, or Audemars. You know, they're a company that if you didn't know who they were and why they were so important, you wouldn't know them. You know, Laterer, you could drop 70K on a Laterer watch with a double remontoire, but unless you know what a remontoire is, you're not going to care. And there's a reason Cartier sells a lot of quartz watches, not because they're cheap. Cartier's not cheap. It's because they're selling watches to people who don't care what's inside. They want the watch to tell the time. and they never wanna think about it except for maybe every few years when they have to take it in to have the battery changed. They bought it because they wanted something nice looking on their wrist to tell time with, and there's nothing wrong with that, you know? Or then you can go to the other end of the spectrum and have a high beat quartz, tool watch, but that's a different buyer, that's a different collector. But at the luxury level, the average luxury buyer doesn't care, doesn't care. You could stick a banana to a wall with duct tape, and if the richies want it, they will pay whatever you ask. Anybody who says a watch is too expensive, I'll just say I didn't pay, well, they didn't either, but somebody paid 6 figures, 7 figures for a banana duct taped to a wall. Elusive Man. Oh, JDF Omega. I'm sure you know if it's fake or not simply by the feel of it. I know my watches. I had my doubts, but the edges could have been a little, because one of the things that I always like to point out is the edges on a real Rolex. The edges are, even though they're not blades, they're sharp. You can feel the edge on the case. You can feel that crispness. This one's not bad. It's pretty sharp, but it's not that crisp. I think whatever they did for the polishing might have done, taken that little itty bit of difference, that 1 micron precision, off of it. So you can have your doubts, but it might not be fake until you are sure it's fake. And in my case, I opened it up. And if you look on the blog, you'll see the photo, on my posts. I posted a still of the back of the watch, and the first thing that tipped you off was the plastic spacer. So even if you knew nothing else about watches, you see the plastic spacer and you go, I don't think Rolex uses plastic spacers. And so you realize immediately, and then, of course, you see that it's not even a full balance bridge, mechanical movement. It is a mechanical movement. It's I haven't for the episode, I'm gonna take a closer look at it and see if I see any serial numbers on it. Probably won't be since it's fake. It might be, and it's probably some, reasonably well-made Chinese, automatic balance cock, movement. It's a three-hander, so with dates, so it doesn't need a very complicated movement to have a halfway decent mechanical movement in it. And I was talking to my friend and told him the bad news, that it's not real, and his girlfriend was like, "Why do people even bother?" I said, "Well, if you're selling it to someone who knows it's fake, it's worth about $200. If you're selling it to someone who doesn't know it's fake, it's worth about 5,000." And she goes, "Ah, because there's a comical amount of, well, they're fake watches. It's 100% fraud." And everybody keeps forgetting they don't ship fake watches. They don't ship fake watches through the supply chain, right? They're shipped through the underground supply chain along with every other smuggled good, from people to animals to drugs to whatever. I mean, what do you think, that the people who sell fake watches only deal in that one aspect of criminality? You get caught with $500 million of fake Richard Milles in your shipping container, you can't say, "Hey, ooh, it's just one fake watch." That is a go to jail, do not pass go felony. So if I'm smuggling fake watches in quantity, what am I gonna do? Only do that? I'm not gonna smuggle drugs or any of the other things. We're talking about the criminal supply chain, but that's a different argument. We were back on the cost of watches, you know? Some people, for example, my, silver Snoopy, right? Which I wore this weekend on red, white, and blue for the 4th of July. would say this is overpriced, but it's got a freaking little spaceship zipping across the back and all in the earth. The effort to make a complicated watch with a lot of functions in and of itself shows the craftsmanship and the effort and the work and the hours put into it. If it took 10 people 6 months to make your watch, it's not gonna be cheap. And if they bought, let's say, a movement from, say, China, which we went over this before, how can both Sellita and China be putting movements in cheap watches? Because I hear everybody say, "Oh, that has a Sellita in it." Well, if it has a Sellita in it, it ain't a Chinese movement, is it? So, let's say they buy an off-the-shelf movement like Zen. I was at their facility, and they still had a couple dozen technicians at tables assembling watches from the various parts they've ordered from the various vendors, and of course, they do things to the stuff they buy, like they treat the cases, their tegimentation process as one example. They are a value-added watch manufacturer. Um, I don't believe they have any in-house movements. They may have no, I think oh, yes, their, space watch, the Chrono, the EZM. That's, I believe, an in-house, and it's a center minutes chrono inspired by the old, Omegas and, the other name, the 5100 is the model number of the center minute chrono. The Speedmaster 3 has that movement in it as well. But the thing is that these companies are putting effort because to just assemble well, first, they probably disassemble the movements and or at least check the movements. They have to, of course, in the case of any Cosc watches, regulate the movements. They've got to insert them into these cases. They've got to make sure that they're properly assembled. They're testing them. They also offer warranty, so they're obviously putting effort into it. So even and if you think about it, just rule of thumb, like look at Mito and Oris, an off-the-shelf chrono, Swiss made, or even German made. Look at a German company like Zinn or Laco or Stova. Um, you're going to pay a couple $1,000. Now, again, if you ask the person that says that it's too expensive, they're not going to say, "Well, I didn't mean that one," you know. But have those conversations with people because you hear that all the time. And part of being a watch collector is also helping slay the dragons of myth that is out there. Elusive Man. Omega is out of control with the pricing these days. Rolex purely overpriced because of name. I was offered two-tone GMT this past week. I had to turn it down. 18.5 is a big chunk of change. Yeah, 18.5 is a big chunk of change in one sense. Well, number one, gold actually is more expensive. Um, two-tone, and Rolex does use real gold even in the links on their two-tones. Um, the Rolex brand is, I said, again, a luxury product. That watch should be priced at probably 9 to 12. So it is you're right, it is overpriced. But again, everything is overpriced. You think of a Ferrari is really worth $2,000,000? It's probably worth 800,000, you know? But then again, who am I to put prices on products? The market the market puts prices on products. And as long as there are people willing to pay, 18.5, they're gonna sell it for that. If you owned a company and could sell a product, I mean, it you go to the price point that you can sleep at night as well. But when you're talking about a luxury product, you don't care. I mean, you care about the buyer in the sense that you want them to be happy and you want to fulfill their desires and you want to give them a good product. But if it's a luxury product, you don't have to worry about saying there's no gluten in it or something like you know what I mean? It's a luxury product. It's primarily the branding, frankly. Even well, I shouldn't say primary well, the branding is a significant aspect of the value of the product, but in the case of watches, which is I've also done an episode on, I think watches are the best luxury product to buy because you get the most product for that money. You spend 18.5 on shoes or clothes or handbags, and number 1, the question of where that handbag was made is the first issue, even among the legitimate players. 2, handbags by definition are machine finished, sewing machine, haha. Um, and the value of those products are driven by branding and marketing as well, you know? I was on the same Formula 1 race car that was Amazon Market Services. So, I mean, we know web services are overpriced just because the economy of scale means that the amount that they're overcharging you is less, doesn't mean you're not being overcharged. Um, so I completely understand because I can't afford 18.5 myself. So I'll probably never have a new GMT. If I ever come across a good one at one of my friends' used shops and I can get them to let me pay on time and stuff like that, then maybe I can get my hands on one. But you do what you can. I can recognize that I'll never own that, you know, Bugatti Veyron, which I think, well, the Bugatti Veyron is a rare example of it's not that overpriced because there's a comical amount of engineering in that car. Wow, we're a quarter to the top of the hour. It's always nice when we have a nice chat with people. Nanad, luxury watches are overpriced. Just look at how much Omega increased the price over last year's, including inflation. The price still went up 30, 40. Yeah, they did. I think that I think it was a knee jerk the reaction. The entire industry went up in prices in various areas. Um, I think they were responding to the comical gray market prices that were existing for certain brands. And the companies like Omega, like Rolex, were saying they're selling these watches used for these prices. I'm going to increase mine. So, yeah, you're right. They did increase their prices, but they increased their prices to meet a lot of the market demand, you know? The other side of that coin is incentive to buy used, but the used prices are also still I mean, if you get, say, for example, a blue ceramic Seamaster, that has not dropped much from the retail value, even today's retail value. You're still talking about 6K for used with box and papers, ceramic Seamaster, you know? Um, Unfortunately, the market has gone up and prices are higher in a lot of areas. But at the same time, prices are going down at this moment. Right now, at this moment in time, the market is actually starting to soften up again because of financial uncertainties in the marketplace. Scared money doesn't spend money on luxury watches. So now is actually a good time to buy. I'm keeping my eyes open right now. I bought my sub at a decent price, gray market, but I bought it from a local shop from somebody I knew. So, I was able to get a good, fair market price for it when I bought it, and the market price for it has gone up since. But it's starting to show softness. There are deals out there now of Rolex is selling used below retail. Not a lot below retail though. Gian, what movement does the fake Rolex have? I will look, like I said, when I do the episode, I'll look at it more closely. I didn't look at it very closely when I did the episode, when I did the photo. I closed it up. I'm going to do an episode. I'm going to do the whole episode. When I do, I'll even get I have a USB video microscope. I'll even pull that out and we'll look at the interior with that as well, just to have some fun with it. But I'm going to really look at it up close. I'll even use the USB microscope to look at the face because this is a very good fake. It's not a super clone. I did do an episode where I called one watch a super clone, and when it was new, it was. But now The fakes are even better than they were before. So this fake is a very good fake, but even it wouldn't be considered a super clone today because theoretically you could open a super clone and have without at a general glance, without going heavy duty as a watchmaker, you can look at it and go, well, it looks like it. Rolex has got Rolex engraved on the movement and on the it's got the anti it has the coating, that purple color on the springs, the mainspring case, that's anti-friction coating. And the best fakes look at a glance like a Rolex movement. They just usually don't have a free sprung balance, or they'll have some kind of metal applique on top to make it look like it has, or to hide the control arms that shows that it's not. But you need to open it up to look nowadays, because even well, I should say, from good fake upward, it's really hard to tell. It's really hard to tell nowadays. Like I said, I wasn't completely sure about this one. I had doubts about it, but I wasn't completely sure about it until I opened it up and looked inside. Pep hey, how's it going? Everything's gone up in price, sadly. Hey, Ristful Ignorance. John. Hey, John. Talking timepieces. I did have a good Independence Day because the weather was really nice here, and did the beer garden thing. The Americans had fireworks above the base. A matter of fact, tomorrow I'm going to be going to the German American Friendship Fair that's being held at the American military base. That'll be fun because I am proud of my, regardless of political views on both sides of the aisle, everyone who's a veteran should appreciate their service and be proud of it. And I am proud of my service. Hey, Chris, how's it going? John D. Luxury is a relative term and broadly imprecise. Exactly. Well, that's why I said in the headline premium, because a lot of watches that some people would consider luxury, I would consider premium watches. Well, let's see. I don't have too many like that I would. Well, I would consider this a premium watch, but some people would call it entry level luxury. I hate the term entry level. I would call this basic luxury or high level premium watch. It's a good watch, and you can get it for under 2,000. And it's got a Value 7750 base movement. It's a 7753. In fact, these two watches have the exact same movement in them. These are both Value 7753s, and one of the easy ways you can tell is they both have the hidden pusher for the date change at 10 o'clock. At 10 o'clock. So, but I always thought it's funny, and but fit, finish, all that other. Although the Cartier looks thicker because it's slab sided, the Cartier is actually thinner than the PRX with the same movement, showing they know what they're doing when it comes to making watches, don't they? Right. Um, it's a thinner watch. It's thinner than that, and it's thinner than the Mito Chrono, because that Mito Chrono Ocean Star that I had mentioned earlier, that's also a Value 7753, and it was thicker, but then it was a diver. I didn't count that, but the PRX is a dress watch, and the um, Cartier is a dress watch, and the Cartier with the same movement in it is thinner than the PRX. So there's an example of higher level of fit and finish. John, hey John D. Oh, 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 slid past a comment. Wow, we got so many comments. Okay, and we're getting close to the top of the hour. Why do you always come at the very end? All of you all. I mean, I love you all, so I'm not going to worry too much about you all. Okay, here we go. John D. When considering price, the intangibles aren't necessarily tethered to inflation. So when brand reputation rises, it's quite okay to see prices for the products rise more than inflation would be. Well, see, and that's the market driving side of the luxury marketplace, because some things fall in and out of favor so fast, it's comical. Like when they made that wine movie, and he hated Merlot. It literally tanked the Merlot market. If he had something nice about Merlot, the Merlot market would have spiked and prices would have gone up. That's unfortunately nature of the marketplace. Um, Arcana. It's fair to give that much money for the watch company's heritage. Well, there's the old saying, right? Earn your bullshit, right? Rolex, for all as we point fingers and all, they make their watches aren't handmade, you know, fantastic horological pieces in that sense of fancy. They are exceptional in a horological sense that their movements are bulletproof. These are flawless watches. This is a flawless watch. Everything you bought it for, it does. It is legible, it runs well, it's reliable, mechanical, everything, and it does it all flawlessly. And that's what you're paying for. And the marketing, you know. So the flawless part counts for a lot, though. That's why I only consider Rolex is overpriced by about maybe 30%. It's still most of the money is in the watch and the effort that went into making it. And yeah, a chunk in marketing. Gian, Omega is the better watch, Rolex is the better brand. These are words to live by. All right, I'm glad you think so. They weren't my original. Uh, I'm repeating what I have heard from others. I stand on the shoulders of giants. Tony, hey, love you too. I love you all. If it weren't for you all watching and listening and enjoying this conversation, I'd just be some guy talking at the walls about watches. Man yells at cloud. Formula Whiplash. Hey, hey. In the Navy, our C5 broke down in Spangdahlem. Oh, okay, cool. On the way home from a Middle East deployment. I've been to Spangdahlem. I used to sell to the PXs in the 80s and 90s. So I've actually been to every military base from Lakenheath to Aviano. Touring the Bitburger Brewery. Yeah. And seeing the town was awesome. Nice BMWs too. Yeah. Bitburger, like I said, it's my favorite pills. Germans know how to make beer. A lot of people don't know that the purity laws from the 1500s that the Germans still apply to beer also apply to sausages, and they still apply them to sausages to this day. I think the EU has kind of softened a lot of that, but the good old school German meat companies still adhere to the old rules. Trap Vision. The Vince, the nuance of the watch hobby and others like motorcycles, knives, and car make them interesting. The hunt for things is almost a hobby in itself. Yes. I recently picked up on a lark, and I might even do an episode. I picked up this cheap. It wasn't. I paid all of like $400 for this set of erotic pocket watches. Maybe I'll do an episode. I have to look into if I'll get demonetized if I show drawings of that kind of stuff. Maybe I'll. Yeah, but if I blur it, will it be an interesting episode? I need to get legal advice on can I show erotic watches in an episode and not worry about getting in trouble. Uh Trap. I have my PRX carbon on right now. I do like my PRX. I treat my PRX. I have a couple of watches I wear. I call them, my uh casual beaters. Watches that I wear when I want to go and enjoy myself and not worry about getting my watch, stolen or worry about something happening to it, bang into something. I have a few pieces in my collection that I still like them. They're nice watches. I enjoy owning them, but that are a little more sporty and risk taking. You can look at it that way. Trap Vision. I have my Hamilton X-Wind. Nice watch. X-Wind with the Value 7750 in my bag right now. Film day for me. There you go. Good film day. And you'll find the 7750 or variants of it everywhere. Oh, I forgot. This is a 7750 variant as well. This is the 7751. And this one's in everything from the old, Omega Speedmaster reduced to o any any moon phase calendar you see under 10K is almost 99.9% has this movement in it. It's a great the Valjoux, which is why we keep calling it the Valjoux movement, because Valjoux was a separate company, got bought by Etta, but the movement is so famous, it's kept the legacy of the company alive, at least on our lips. Stan, hey Stan, 100% considering AliExpress is such good deals. Well, there's nothing wrong with buying a Chinese homage or even a Chinese straight up nice piece. I just picked this one up for the lark of it. It's an homage to the, Monaco, and it's a quartz chrono with a GMT hand. Not GMT, it's just a 24-hour hand. And I thought, I paid all of 160 bucks for it. But I thought, worth a fun episode or something. I should have brought it down. It's up in the case, but I've got a seagull. I got a Chinese seagull panda myself. You know, nothing wrong with having a Chinese piece. Just don't get a fake. Get an homage. Trap Vision. I had to go back out to see what the title was. I saw you were live, so I just jumped right in. Thank you, John. Cartier quartz isn't some cheap garbage. Exactly. It's a high autonomy, excellent 3-5 jewel movement with some classic finishing, and I believe they're serviceable. Yeah. That's the thing. Cartier, they're not putting the quartz movements in to be cheap. They're putting them in because they have customers who don't care. They want a Cartier watch. They want it to work. They want it to be accurate. They want it to be reliable and robust and look nice on their wrist. That's what they're buying it for. And Cartier sells it to them. If you want a Cartier with a 7750 in it, you can buy one. Well, the newer ones have an in-house movement because Cartier bought into that joint movement company, I believe. If I'm incorrect, I know they do get some really nice movements, or I think they might even be doing serious in house. But you can't buy a 7750 in a new Cartier, but you can definitely find them in a vintage one. Um, Stan, what's the highest beat quartz available? Ask God, sir. I can't. You can't ask God. I don't know. But the highest speed I know of that you can buy at retail is the 262 kilohertz Bulova precisionist movements. They have a whole line of watches called the precisionist. The Lunar Pilot has the precisionist movement in it. They have a few others that they have some three-handers even that have their it's what they do is I think it's a three-prong crystal, and they do some kind of, frequency matching or averaging or whatever, but it's very, very accurate, and it's 262,000 hertz, which is a lot. 262 yeah, 262,000 hertz. That's a lot. A standard quartz crystal beats at about 32,000 hertz. So this beats an order of magnitude faster than a standard quartz watch. The Rolex Oyster Quartz, it is a 1 hertz, 11 joule mechanical movement attached to a quartz controlled motor. So it's an electromechanical. You can almost say it's a predecessor of the spring drive, but the spring drive is a different execution. But the idea of an electromechanical quartz movement is just so nice. That's why I put the display back. I still have the metal back. I'm never going to sell it, but if I ever do, I do have the original metal back, but I have the display back on it because it's such a cool looking movement. Trap Vision. I was able to score a few of my Swiss made pieces for as much as 60% off retail. Nice. My buddy just got an Omega Seamaster for less than 200 bucks. He fooled his coworkers. Well, as long as they didn't lose out. Well, if the coworker, he probably just had some nice, fast moving negotiation tactics. Elusive Man, I have the Aquaterra World Timer. As I know, it's nice. I do. By the way, Elusive Man's collection is one of the videos I did a review. And anybody who ever wants me to do a little review of their collection, send me front and back photographs, high res, and we'll do a whole episode on your collection. Nanad, the question is, how much did my friend pay for the fake? He got it for free. It was a kind of a tip in a business deal, legitimate business deal, but some high rollers, here, have a gift, and gave him the gift. And so now I'm thinking this guy probably has a suitcase full of these, so he can give everybody a Rolex. Oh, Elusive Man. I read that already. John D. The Aquaterra line is an excellent option. Agreed. Like I said, I think it's better than the Datejust. Nanad, the question is, how much did my friend pay? I answered that one already. I keep circling around the idea of what luxury products are, and yet haven't addressed the nebulous nature of the definition. No, you're absolutely right. Let's talk a little bit about that, and I'll close on that note. Let me answer the rest of these questions. We'll close on that note about the nebulous nature of what luxury is. HRM, I think there's a great opportunity in the sub 3,000 market. I agree. In slow motion, high. But Abel from 90s special edition Tag Heuer, the Lamania, that's the one I was thinking of, the Lamania movement, the 5100. Aberhard, 18 karat gold manual chronograph with a Value 7733, nice, under 4. When you research, you can find genres. I agree. New old stock. Lamania 283 with a DD 2000 module, the same as the AP offshore, exactly. HRM, if I didn't say hi. I think the Longines L990 is criminally underrated. Agreed. It's a true high horology movement for under 500. Agreed. Used by Breguet, Parmigiani, Vianin, other brands. The luxury term, by definition, Trap Vision says, is varied across social media. The conversation will be ongoing until YouTube paid it. Hey, Butters. Stan, good fakes can be $500+ plus. This is true. But then that's why I say buy a good homage. Sourcing Phoenix. Hey, greetings from Argentina. Greetings from Wiesbaden. Ordered a micro mil spec. Nice watches. I did a video on them after I got to know them on your videos. Oh, thank you. There we go. Know them videos at the watch show. Yeah, waiting for the new interviews at the fair when I'm planning to attend. I literally have back-to-back conferences, but I think I'm going to go ahead and bite the bullet and fly directly from Birmingham, England to Geneva, because I'm going to be at ECCE, which is an electronics conference in Birmingham, and I really want to go to Geneva Watch Days. And if I miss Geneva Watch Days, I'll definitely be at the Dusseldorf Watch Time show. Arthur, hey Arthur, thinking of getting a Rolex Explorer, can't decide between 36 millimeter and 39. I would go for 85 to 90 kilos. Oh yeah, I'd go for the 39. I'd go for the 39 because that's not going to extend beyond the edges of your wrist, so it's not going to look comically large, and it'll fill that space nicely. The danger is if the watch is so big that it sticks out past the edges of your wrist, and then it looks like you're a child wearing your dad's watch. That not a good look. But on the 39, that's why 39 is a popular size, is because it's a big watch in one sense, but it's not. I mean, a 44 is a big watch. A 42 is a big watch. A 39 is a large watch. And I think you could pull it off at 90 kilos. You can pull it off. That's 180 pounds, 180 and change. So yeah, you could definitely pull off a 39. But if you're worried, get the 36. But I think you could pull off a 39, and it would fill the wrist, have more wrist presence without being overpowering. Steel. Yes. Were I lucky enough to get my silver Snoopy? Yes, I did. At an AD, I did. Did I have purchase history? No, I bought it. I managed to luck out and get it at retail. I had a friend who alerted me to one that was on sale in Texas, and I sent him my credit card information, had him buy it, and had him FedEx it to me in Atlanta, where I was at a trade show. That's how it took me 3 years, and somebody said, I had one of my contacts who I know people, and they said, "Hey, I found one at retail," and I said, buy it." And I sent him my credit card number, and I got it from an AD at retail. Um, the shipping wasn't cheap because I had it FedExed from, and they sent it insured, so it was sent insured FedEx, but it was worth it. It was worth every penny, and so I was able to get it for under, gray market. I got it at over retail because I did pay Texas, sales tax, obviously, buying it at retail, and, I had to pay the shipping, but it was totally worth it. Totally, totally worth it. Uh, in slow motion, I still believe getting watches before pandemic was cheaper and easier, market was stable. Yeah, yeah, the whole market fluctuations, like I said, scared money don't spend money on luxury. It between the pandemic and between the market uncertainties and the pandemic, recovery, and maybe it's not recovering now because we're going into other uncertainties. The watch market, I've seen videos today that people were saying, "Ah, the market's collapsing." I haven't seen any collapse yet. It might happen, might not. Got to keep an eye on the prices. I think the market is soft. I personally think the market is soft. Now's a good time to keep an eye open and find a deal. You might be able to get a Rolex at a good price, gray market, maybe even at or close to retail, because the market is soft right now. It's worth looking around. It's a buyer's market. So we're going to close off on the topic of the ephemeral aspect of luxury, and then I'm going to call it an evening because, like I said, I actually have important publishing stuff to do in the morning. But luxury is a variable relative term. To some people, a Bitburger beer is luxury. These fancy schmancy European beers, if you bought it in the United States, for example, because then, well, some are actually brewed locally and put labels on it. But look at Heineken; they go out of their way to make sure every bottle sent. I've actually been to the Humongoid brewery in Hertogenbosch, where they brew a significant amount of. It's a factory city, um, but they ship it across the sea to America. So in one sense, it's a luxury product. To me, I always look at when it comes to watches, since watches have finite prices and you can attach certain values to that. I look at it as if it costs more than a month's rent, it is a luxury purchase. So if your month's rent is 500 bucks a month, a luxury purchase is a $600 watch. If your rent is $5,000 a month, a luxury purchase is a 5,000. But then again, if you're paying 5,000 rent, then we're starting to get on that semi-logarithmic scale of affordable and what you can afford. But if you're talking about, yeah, if I'm paying 2,000 a month for rent, I'm like I said, I live below my means. I live in a nice small place in a very nice neighborhood, but it's a small place, and I pay 1,100, and I could pay twice that for rent, but I'd rather have that money to spend on watches. But let's say, for example, I was spending, say, 2,500 a month on rent. To me, a $3,000 watch would be then a luxury purchase because I'm spending a significant amount of my income on it. I think it's about percentages of of your resources, what you can afford, what you're willing to expend for that. And then on the contrast, let's talk about something, like a microphone, right? Some people would consider certain price levels to be luxurious, whereas others would say, "No, I need this tool," or like a luxury guitar. People don't really say luxury guitar, do they? They say premium guitar, or they use other words. It's a handmade guitar, or it's artisanal guitar, or whatever. But there are players who can use that level of craftsmanship in their instrument, and to them, that's not a luxury. So yes, I agree with you completely. Luxury is a really, really tenuous tenuous term. To some people, silver is luxury. To some people, gold is luxury. To some people, platinum is luxury. To some people, business class is luxury. To some people, first class is luxury. To some people, private jet is luxury. So yeah, it is all very, 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 variable, which is why I was saying some people call, say, for example, the, PRX, right? Entry level luxury because it is admittedly not an expensive piece, but it is a very, very nice piece. So, you're completely right. Luxury is a tenuous term, and it all depends upon the point of view of the observer. As I joke all the time, the theory of relativity applies to everything. Reality depends upon the point of view of the observer. So, on that note, we'll call it an evening. Have a fantastic week, and most especially, have a fantastic evening. Take care, everybody. Love you all, and until next Sunday.